Okay guys, I know that you're really interested in becoming experts in ComfyUI. Pulling off some of the stuff like you see from my most recent workflow that I've been sharing on X here, as well as the work of other creators like @PersBeats. Big shout out. Now I'm not going to sell you some kind of false dream, this is some expert level Comfy stuff. But on that note, becoming an expert in ComfyUI is much easier than you think. And if you follow along in the series, I'm more than sure that you'll be able to call yourself an expert and do stuff that I'm going to be asking you. How'd you do that? Right now, we're just going to speed run through the installation of ComfyUI and generate an image. That'll be our first video, and that'll be our ground truth. First things first, we're going to head over to the ComfyUI GitHub repo. All right, where it says code here, we're going to click that, and we're going to copy the URL. You're going to head into your file browser and navigate to wherever it is that you want your ComfyUI installed to be. And then in your address bar at the top, you're going to click, you're going to write CMD. And that's going to open up your command line. And you are going to git clone, CLONE, and paste the link from the GitHub repo that we copied. Again, that was code, copy this, and then we're pasting that into here. So git clone the repo address. So now that we've cloned the repository, you'll notice that there's a ComfyUI folder inside of our directory. Before we head in there, I just want to create my virtual environment outside of the ComfyUI directory. Now to do that, we're going to do python -m venv, and that'll install. Now, a virtual environment is just a place to store all of the stuff that Python is going to need to make sure that ComfyUI is running properly, or whatever other project it would be that you would be installing a virtual environment for. So to activate our virtual environment, it would be venv/script scripts/activate. Alright, now that we've activated our virtual environment, you can confirm that we've activated it by noticing that it says venv inside parentheses behind our address. So now we want to head inside the ComfyUI folder. So we're going to cd, which stands for change directory, and head into ComfyUI. So now that I'm inside the ComfyUI folder, we want to follow the installation instructions deemed by the ComfyUI repo. Now I am on a Windows PC, so I'm going to be following the Windows installation. For the most part, the Linux installation is just about the same, just you need to adjust your Python commands. If you guys want me to make a specific video on that, let me know. I got you guys, that's not an issue. So we need to install Torch. Personally, I think that it's better to first install the requirements here and then install Torch. So to install our requirements, we are going to head back to our command line where our ComfyUI folder is, and we are going to put that exact command. Now for clarity, I'm going to type it out, but you could copy paste, and that is going to be pip install -r requirements.txt. Alright, so now that that has finished installing, what we need to do is install the correct version of Torch. Otherwise, it's going to throw an error, so please keep that in mind. To do that, we just take this command here, right under where it says NVIDIA. We copy, and we paste that command in, and we press enter. Give it its time. Now that Torch has finished installing, first thing that we want to do is actually install the ComfyUI Manager, which is way more simpler than you think. We're going to head over to the ComfyUI Manager repo, and I will have these links down below in the description, by the way. We're going to, same as before, hit this code button, and then copy that link that it has there. After we copy that link, we're going to head back to our command line, and just for a visual understanding of what's going on, we are inside the ComfyUI folder right now. We want to head in to the custom nodes directory that's inside the ComfyUI folder. So in other words, we want to end up in here. So to do that, we're going to cd, which is change directory, into custom nodes, I press CUS and then press tab, and it finishes the rest for me. And now I am inside that folder. So inside this custom nodes folder is where we want to git, clone, and we're going to paste that link that we got from the ComfyUI manager. And then we want to press enter, and we're going to let that install. You'll notice that now that it's installed, we actually have it inside of our custom nodes folder, as you see, ComfyUI manager. And the last thing that we need to do so we can actually use ComfyUI and generate our first image is we need to get a model, so a stable diffusion checkpoint. So to get a stable diffusion model, what you're going to do, instead of using the base models because it's not as interesting, you're going to head to Civit AI, and inside of Civit AI you're going to find a model. Make sure that you are under the models tab, and put any filters that you want. I'm going to put SD15. Please nothing bad come up. Oh, thank God. You're going to want to click the model that interests you, and upon clicking the model that interests you, you're going to head here to download options. You're going to download the model, and you're going to set its location to where your ComfyUI install is, inside ComfyUI, inside models, inside checkpoints. Now I already have a bunch of models installed, so I'm not going to install another model. I'm just going to drag and drop one. Personally, I prefer to actually put the models in a directory that's associated with the type of model that it is. So right now I am putting a stable diffusion 1.5 model in here, so I'm going to make a directory called SD15, and I'm just going to grab one of these. Let's go with Epic Realism, copy it, paste it, and now we have a model inside of ComfyUI. So we are going to cd out of the custom nodes directory. That's cd full stop, and that's because we are inside of the custom nodes directory. So now we are inside the root directory of ComfyUI, and the last thing that we need to do is just python main.py. Alright, and ComfyUI is running. Once you see this here, where it says to see GUI, go to this address, that means the ComfyUI is running. We're going to copy that, and then we'll just head to the address. Now technically you can, quickly load a default workflow. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to build it up from scratch, because it's really not that difficult, and trust me, you got this. So all you're going to do, we got to load our checkpoint. So we're going to double click. That's how we get this interface up. So double click, we're going to write checkpoint. We see we get load checkpoint. We're going to click that. Now we have our checkpoint loaded. We see that the one checkpoint that we have available is inside there. You see how we have these little routes here? If we were to drag off this route, it's really only going to recommend things that are associated with that route. Now when you get into custom nodes, things get a little bit more dicey, but for the basics like this, we're good, trust me. We're going to drag off here, and we're going to click K-Sampler. The next thing we want to do is we want to be able to prompt. Our K-Sampler just gave us our seed, our steps, our CFG, but how do we write our prompt? So we're going to drag off of clip, and you see clip text and code. We're going to click that, and we see this other area where it says conditioning. We're going to drag that over into our positive box. And now we're going to do the same thing again, where I dragged off there, clip text and code, and again conditioning, but this time we're going to go into the negative. So where it says latent image, we're going to click on that, drag off, and we see we get empty latent image here. We want to click that. And now we have our empty latent image. I'm going to tuck it right under here. And now the last thing we need to do is drag off the latent. We see VAE code. And you see these two routes here. Let's connect them. And then the last thing we want is to see our output. Now if you want to save the output, you can put save image. I'm going to put preview image because usually I'm running so much that, I don't want to be saving things that are unnecessary. So I usually run preview image. We just organize this a bit. And that is literally it. That's all we need to start generating images in Stable Diffusion. All right, so let's set up a prompt here. So this is my positive prompt because, as we see, it is connected into the positive route of the K sampler. And now we're going to put our negative prompt. Now for this particular model, I know that the CFG is preferred low, so I'm going to put it low, but you can put it to whatever you want for your model. I genuinely say play around with these parameters. To actually generate an image, where it says Q prompt, we're going to click that. I just want to briefly discuss some of the values here so that you guys can have some fun on your own before we move on to the next video. So this is obviously our positive prompt. It's plugged into the positive route for the K sampler. This is our negative route. It's plugged into the negative route for our K sampler. Our K sampler is essentially the thing that's running our generation. It's what's handling our inference. Now, this latent image right here that we have plugged into the latent image route, that's just the size of our generation. So you see here we have width, we have height, and we have batch size. Well, if I were to put batch size to 2, as you can see, we now generated 2 separate images. If I were to set batch size to 4, you can see that now we generate 4 images. As far as the height and the width and the height, 512 by 512 works great. 512 by 768 also works great. Have fun with it, experiment. Don't kind of lock yourself too much into, what are the best parameters. The more you mess with it, the more you start to find little niches. Your steps is, how many increments is it going to take in generating your image. So if I'm at 30 steps, you'll notice it generates rather fast. That was 30 steps. But then if I put 75, you'll notice it's generating slower than 30, about twice as long. And it doesn't necessarily make the quality better. It gives you a different kind of output. To a certain degree, you can argue that it makes better quality outputs, but again, it's artistic preference, and it also depends on your model. Your CFG, that is dependent on your model. With this specific model, which is Epic Realism, it tends to have more fun with a lower CFG value and lower step values as well. But there are some models that, your CFG will be like 15. But I believe that if I do that here, we're probably get a burned image. Yeah, you see this fragmentation and weird distorted and over sharpened look and over contrasty. That means that we're burning our image. So that's why this model, as I said, prefers a 3. So this is a very basic introduction into ComfyUI. The whole idea is that I don't want to be talking about this side of it. I rather want to be talking about the fun, more complex stuff. But we got to build. We got to work our way up to that. I kept this as basic as possible. This way, as we develop through different concepts, you are solely focused on installing the things you need, and rather having ComfyUI as a base install working on your machine no matter what. So, blessings. Until the next one.